Let's now move on to an example. So we want to find the regression line for 5 data points. And we want to plot those points and sketch the fitted line as a check on our calculations. So we have these 5 data points. We want to compute a bunch of terms to help us figure out what the best fit line is. So we're going to start by computing x bar. So that's the average of the x points. So I'm going to underline the x points there. So we get -2, -1, +0, +1, +2. We're going to divide that by 5. Hopefully you've noticed that the numerator is 0. So we're going to get 0. Now we want to average the y points. Okay, so we're going to average 3 + 2 + 1 + 1 + a half. We're going to divide that by 5, and we get 1½ when we average those points. Okay, now what is S sub xy? Okay, we're going to sum x minus x bar, y minus y bar. So we're going to do x sub I minus x bar times y sub I minus y bar. So what does that look like? Well, we can do, let's see, -2 minus 0, that's x minus x bar. And then 3 minus 1.5, that's y minus y bar. Plus -1 minus 0 and 2 minus 1.5. Plus 0 minus 0 times 1 minus 1.5. Plus 1 minus 0 times 1 minus 1.5. And then finally 2 minus 0 times 1/2 minus 1.5. So if we add all of that up, we're going to get a -6. So that's S sub xy. So what about S sub xx? That is going to be the sum of the x sub i's minus x bar squared. So each time we're subtracting 0. So -2 minus 0 squared plus -1 minus 0 squared plus 0 minus 0 squared plus 1 minus 0 squared plus 2 minus 0 squared. That's going to be 10. And so that gives us that beta 1 hat, which is S sub xy over S sub xx, is -6/10. And then what is beta 0 hat? Well, that's going to be y bar minus beta 1 hat x bar. So that's going to be 1.5 for y bar minus 0.6 for the slope times x bar, which is 0. So that's going to give us just 1.5. And so that's how we can find the regression line, which is beta 0, 1.5, minus beta 1, which is 0.6, times x. And that is our best fit line. Now we want to plot that to make sure that that works. So what I've done is I've plotted the data points below here. Okay, so I plotted all 5 data points in green for you. And then I'm plotting the best fit line. And you can see, of course, the line doesn't really go through any of the points, okay, but it does minimize the sums of the squares of the errors. So you can kind of plot the little residuals. And the idea is that it's going to minimize the sum of the squares of the residuals. So let's talk about interpretations of intercept and slope. Beta 0 is the estimated value when x is equal to 0. Okay, so if the line looks like y hat equals beta 0 plus beta 1 hat x. Then if we plug in x equals 0, then we just get y equals beta 0. So this is like having the initial value of y. And sometimes that has a valid interpretation and sometimes it doesn't. Now beta 1 hat is the estimated change in y for a 1 unit change in x. Okay, essentially that's the definition of the slope.